Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're going to talk about cold water crankbaits, and I've got some that I want to share with you that are some of my favorites, and I can assure you they're not just my favorites, but these are some of the best time-tested crankbaits to throw during the cold water period. Generally speaking, you've always got a bunch of fish that are up shallow when you're talking about fishing from the fall into the winter into the early spring. Not all the fish are going to be shallow, but there's still a really good percentage of fish that are up shallow. You've got a lot of the shad that have migrated up shallow. You've got a lot of fish that are relating to hard targets, trying to absorb some of that heat that's being provided by them. There's just always a bunch of fish that are up shallow. And generally speaking, in my opinion, you want to be targeting a lot of your rock, a lot of your stumps, a lot of your laydowns, anything that could absorb heat is generally a good place to fish for the bass. And if you're going to be looking for some of those rock areas that are on travel migration routes like channel swing banks or points or just rock outcroppings, those are really key places to fish. And anytime you're fishing rock, you have to be thinking about throwing a crankbait. That's one of the reasons why they're so good during the cold water period. Not only are they good at coming through rock cover, but they're also really good baits at getting fish to react to the bait and bite out of just sheer reactionary expenses versus actually being hungry. A lot of the bass during the cold water period are just sitting on targets absorbing warmth. A lot of times you catch them where their belly has been definitely sitting in mud. A lot of times you catch them where their belly is a little bit red. Generally speaking, that's because they are physically sitting on the bottom, and a lot of reason for the reason why they're doing that is to absorb some heat. So if you can retrieve a bait past those fish that gets them to react to it and bite out of just animal instincts versus actually being hungry and actively feeding, that's one of the keys to successful fishing. And that's one of the things that a crankbait does so well. It gets fish to snap and bite out of aggression versus actually being in a feeding mode. So I want to talk about each of these baits. They are all unique in their own right, but they have all been proven at this point to be cold water killers when it comes to catching bass. So let's just start with the first one that I've got here. This is kind of an OG. This is one of my absolute favorites. This is the Shad Rap, the Rallis Shad Rap. This is the size 7. That's kind of my preferred size. This is actually one of my favorite colors too. This is live target. It can be a difficult color to find. You can see this is one that I took out. It's actually all beaten up and abused. I've got chips coming out of it, but I've caught a pile of fish on this, and it's called live bluegill, but I really like it because I think it actually is much more like a shad color. But a Shad Rap is great in that it's a tight wobbling bait. It's very much a non-abrasive like approach. It's not coming at you like a wide wobbling crankbait that's tracking all over the place. This is much more like just the natural minnow approach. It would be kind of like the equivalent to throwing a small swim bait. Just looks like a natural fish that's going by. That's what the Shad Rap does so well, but there is something about the fact that it's a silent crankbait. It's balsa, so it has a little bit more of a high float to it, that tight wobble that for years, tens of years, the Shad Rap has been just a killer bait. And one of the times when it shines is during the cold water period. So this is one that I will almost always have tied on if I'm on a good crankbait bite during the winter months. Generally speaking, I will throw this on spinning gear though. It is a very light bait. I can throw it much further and therefore keep my bait in the strike zone longer if I throw it on spinning gear. So that's just something to keep in mind with that guy. And then to go the opposite end of the spectrum, if we're talking about a wide wobbling crankbait, this is the Berkeley Money Badger. Again, this is one of my favorite colors, the spring craw color. This is just the complete opposite of the Shad Rap. Very, very wide wobbling bait that will track all over the place and return to center, but it generally just kind of will go a foot to this side, then come back and go to a foot to the other side. Deflects off cover extremely well. You can see how wide the bill is on this. This one generally will get down to like that 8-foot range, so it gets you through the key target area, whereas like that Shad Rap can be a little bit harder to get down past 6 feet. But this guy will get down, yeah, depending on the size you get, you can get them down to 10, 11, 12 foot as well. But generally speaking, most of the money badgers run down to that 8 foot range. Just an extremely wide wobbling one. So I like to throw this if I've got more jagged rocks. So maybe I've got, when I say jagged, I'm talking more irregular rocks. So maybe I've got a lot of little rock and then I've got a bigger boulder, or I've got some stumps that are mixed in on that rock flat. That's when I like to throw this, because I'm really trying to make contact with one of those bigger rocks or one of those stumps and create that deflection. And this bait just has insane deflection. And from that standpoint, it's a really good bait for breaking off of or hitting off at targets. But the money badger is one of my absolute go-tos at this point. Another one, and this is one that a lot of pros throw. This is the Duo Rallis. This is the M65. They've got a couple of different diving depth ones. This is the 8A, which is kind of my favorite. It gets down to that 8 foot range. Red Tiger, really good color for your cold water period. If I'm fishing muddy water, this is one of my go-tos. It's got a different rattle sound to it, and there's something about this bait. It just kind of has that it factor when you're talking about fishing in muddy water. And when I'm talking muddy, I'm talking like really muddy water, like that Oklahoma red. This is the one that I'm gonna go with. It just has such a proven track record over the years of just catching a ton of fish. Not just for myself, but a lot of other pros. There's been a ton of high finishes on this specific color and this bait. It's just a killer. So for whatever reason, in your really muddy water conditions, that cold water, this is going to be one that I'm going to go with, and I've just had a ton of luck on it. And then the last one, again, is another proven one. A lot of tournament wins on it. This is the Berkley Frittside 5. They've got different sizes. The 5 seems to be one of the favorites here. It's got more of your square bill, kind of coffin bill type approach on it. It's more of a square bill, I guess, than the coffin. But that little guy, I'm surprised it didn't get stuck in the carpet. That little guy right there has won a ton of tournaments. And, you know, this is Morning Dawn, one of my preferred colors, but you can use it in pretty much anything that's shad based, anything that's crayfish color based. And I like to throw this early in the morning when the fish are generally more lethargic. It just seems like the smaller profile. It's a much tighter wobbling bait again. This is a silent one, so it does not create a ton of commotion. It just seems to get bit. And this is one that I've got tied on pretty much all winter again. If I'm fishing crankbaits, these 4 are going to be tied on my rod in some color or some size. I just have had so much luck with these over the years. And it's just fun to fish. A crankbait bite is one of the best ways to cover water, best ways to trigger lethargic fish into biting, and it's one of the best baits at generating a big bite. So if you have the fortune to get out and fish during this time, because I do not, being up here with lakes frozen over and ice fishermen on the lakes, but if you can still get out right now, definitely try some of these. I'll put links in the video description for you. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new one coming out tomorrow.